Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer of Ruskin Bond's incredible short story, The Thief's Story. Now, on the surface, you might read this and think it's just a simple, straightforward narrative about a robbery. But as we're going to unpack today, it is actually a total masterclass in human psychology. We're going to explore how radical, unspoken trust has the power to completely transform a person's life. And we'll see exactly how that plays out through the really fascinating dynamic between our two main characters.
We get thrown right into the mind of our narrator, who just flat out confesses, I was still a thief when I met Anil. And what's wild about this is that our narrator is only 15 years old, yet he already describes himself as this experienced, highly successful hand at stealing. He spots his next target at a wrestling match, an easygoing 25-year-old guy named Anil. Our young thief uses some very calculated flattery to break the ice, totally sizing Anil up as a simple, kind mark who is just going to be an absolute breeze for his next job.
So that brings us to Section 1, a meeting of opposites. The entire foundation of this story really rests on the crazy contrast between these two completely different worlds colliding.
On one side, we have our narrator. He introduces himself as Singh. But surprise, that's a lie. He actually changes his name every single month just to stay a step ahead of the police and his former employers. He operates purely on deception. Then on the other side, we have Anil. Anil is deeply trusting, careless in a worldly sense, and incredibly simple. He's the exact polar opposite of Hari's hyper-vigilant, deceptive nature. To a seasoned thief like Hari, Anil looks like the absolute perfect, easiest target in the world.
Now, Anil can't actually afford to pay Hari a regular salary to be his cook, so instead, he offers this hardened teenage street kid something entirely revolutionary. He promises to teach him how to write his name, do some math, and eventually write whole, complete sentences. For a 15-year-old runaway who only knows a life of crime, this plants a massive seed. You see, education represents a very real path to becoming a respected, clever man, rather than just being a petty thief scraping by on a few rupees here and there. Moving right along into Section 2, The Burden of Trust. As Hari starts living with Anil, the story quickly flips into this brilliant sort of inverted heist.
Usually the obstacles in a heist are things like locks, safes, or armed guards, right? Well, here, the obstacle is actually trust itself. Hari quickly realizes a deeply frustrating truth for a professional criminal. It's super easy to rob a greedy man because, well, he can afford it and he expects it. But robbing Anil is so trusting that he actually gives Hari a key to the front door. He can literally come and go whenever he pleases. Anil's absolute, sheer carelessness takes all the thrill completely out of the theft. For a self-respecting professional like Hari, stealing from someone who might not even notice they've been robbed is just annoying. The trust is literally ruining the crime.
Drawing from his short but very intense career on the streets, Hari has practically become a psychologist of victims. He knows exactly how this works. Greedy men show fear, rich men show anger, poor men show acceptance. But Anil? Anil is deeply unsettling to him. Hari knows that if Anil is robbed, his face won't show an ounce of anger or fear. It's only going to show a profound touch of sadness, and not because he lost the cash, but because he lost the trust. Hari knows exactly the kind of emotional devastation his crime is going to cause.
But despite knowing this immense emotional cost, the temptation just proves to be too much. And that brings us to the execution in Section 3, the midnight theft. When Anil brings home a thick bundle of cash from a recent sale, those old habits immediately kick back in for young Hari. Hari goes into stealth mode and executes his plan flawlessly, just like the pro he claims to be. He waits in the dark for Anil to fall asleep. He quietly creeps over to the bed, carefully slips his hand right under the mattress where he saw Anil stash the money, and boom, he secures the notes without making a sound. He slips out into the clouded moonlight, making an absolute beeline for the train station to catch the 10:30 express to Lucknow. As far as the heist goes, a total physical success. However, the moment he actually reaches the station, everything changes. Hari hesitates. He's got the money in his pocket, the train is sitting right there, but for some inexplicable reason, he just can't bring himself to board it. He literally stands there and watches the train depart, leaving him utterly alone on this dark, deserted platform with nothing but the damp, stolen money in his pockets. The physical escape is officially over. And that brings us to Section 4, a crisis of conscience. Standing alone on that platform, this explainer shifts gears entirely, moving from a physical getaway to a massive, agonizing internal crisis for our young thief. Taking shelter under a clock tower as a cold rain starts to fall, Hari just sits there with the stolen, wet notes, and the heavy reality of what he's done finally hits him. Let's walk through these midnight realizations, because they're huge. First, he has no friends to turn to. He's always believed friends are more trouble than they're worth. Second, he realizes that, sure, a few hundred rupees will buy him maybe a couple weeks of living like a rich man, but the most important realization, he suddenly understands what he has truly sacrificed: his education. He won't learn to write whole sentences anymore. He recognizes that stealing is incredibly easy, but becoming a truly big, clever, and respected man through education, that is something vastly superior.
Driven by this powerful new aspiration, Hari makes a genuinely terrifying decision. He tells himself, I should go back to Anil, if only to learn to read and write. He decides to go back to the room. Now think about this. As Hari himself points out, it is so much easier to steal something than to return it undetected. Returning that money means risking getting caught red-handed. Yet the pull of education and the heavy, heavy weight of Anil's trust compel him to try anyway.
Which leads perfectly into our final and definitely most impactful section, the power of forgiveness. Hari actually manages to slip the money back under the mattress, even though the notes are still damp from the rain. But the true climax of the whole story happens the very next morning.
Hari wakes up late and finds Anil already making tea. Anil casually stretches out his hand, and right there between his fingers is a 50-rupee note. Hari's heart completely drops. He is convinced he's been caught. When he takes the note, he feels that it's still wet from the night's rain. Anil knows. He has to know, right? The money was bone dry when he put it away, and now it's soaked. Which leaves us with this massive, burning question. Why on earth didn't Anil hand Hari over to the police?
The answer is actually incredibly profound. Unspoken forgiveness creates the space for transformation. Anil's eyes and lips reveal absolutely nothing about the theft. He doesn't yell, he doesn't call the cops, and he doesn't even demand an apology. By simply looking at him and saying, "Today we'll start writing sentences," Anil delivers a total masterclass in grace. He recognizes that Hari just fought a massive internal battle and chose to come back. By not shaming him, Anil ties Hari to a debt of gratitude that the young boy genuinely, truly desires to repay.
And this brilliantly illustrates the narrative bookends of our story. Think about it. At the very beginning, Hari gives Anil this incredibly fake, calculated smile of flattery. It was just a tool to manipulate and deceive his target. But here at the end, standing before the man who just silently, completely forgave him, Hari smiles again. But as Ruskin Bond writes, this smile came by itself, without any effort. It is a totally genuine, effortless smile born entirely from relief, gratitude, and true redemption.
So, as we wrap up this explainer on the thief story, I want to leave you to ponder one final, really powerful question. Can radical, unspoken trust truly reform a person when punishment would only harden them? Anil took a massive risk by not calling the police, but by doing so, he literally saved a 15-year-old boy's future. It really challenges us to think about human nature and whether extending grace might actually be the ultimate tool for true rehabilitation. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this incredible story. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.